Yeah. Because you're fired. My producer is fired. He played the wrong intro thing, the little countdown gizmo. The countdown thing is to help get rid of any lag or anything like that. You might notice it's like when I hit go on the live stream, there's always some kind of bugs or snags and things like that. So I got the countdown video. Countdown video is to maybe work out any weird lagginess and mic problems. If you can hear me, okay, and I'm coming in all right, just give me a 1 in the comment section. That would help. Last time I had some mic issues. But hey, it's Friday night. It's 6 p.m. You are live with Preston. What do we got here for today? One chord song. I'm going to play a one chord song for you. That's right. You've heard of a 2 chord song. This is a 1 chord. You can't get any more boring than that. No, I'm joking. How to do something dynamic with that. 7 Spirits of God. What the hell is that? Mommy culture, it's here. It's present in America. It's like the killer bees. Remember the killer bees from back in the day? They were on their way. They're here. The mommy culture is here. And it's not going to lick itself. All this and more live with Preston.
It's just a crying shame, that's all. It's just a crying shame. Ooh, it's just a crying shame. Ooh, ooh, the way it had to be. It was a crying shame. It's just the way it had to be.
See what I mean? All kinds of technical difficulties. I don't know if the song came through clear. If it didn't, you can go back and listen to that. Spotify, iTunes, wherever. The name of the song, in case you didn't catch that, it's Crying Shame by a little band known as Eric Sound Studio. That is a secondary name that I release songs under, me and my buddy Bill. The first one being Preston. You can find us on Spotify. If you go to Eric's Sound System, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Apple Music, all that stuff, if you type in Eric Sound Studio, it'll take you straight there. If you type in Preston, everybody and their brother with the name Preston had the same idea as me. I guess they were all proud of their name. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna call ourselves Preston as well." So there's like 1,000 Prestons, but you can find us there, and links, I believe, on Eric Sound Studio to get to some of Preston's stuff. Check that out. The name of the song, like I said, "Crying Shame." And I'll tell you a little bit about the song. I'll tell you the inspiration for the song. I wanted to set some boundaries for myself, see if I could accomplish something within those boundaries. It's a little challenge I like to do, just kind of fun. And the boundary was a 1 chord. And I'll explain that towards the end of the show. But 1 chord is used in that song. You might debate with me that it's 2 chords, but it's really just 1 chord. And the inspiration for the words came to me. And I was thinking about this experience I had way back before I was married. I was on a date with this chick, this young lady. I'm sorry. I was on a date and everything was going fine. No problems at all whatsoever. She was nice. I was funny and charming, as is my usual self, unless I'm pissing people off. But I was being perfectly fine. And I looked at her. She just happened to turn to the right or the left or something like that. And I looked at her. She had a very small chin. Chin so small. I know it was so superficial to get hung up on something so petty like that, but I did. And from that point on, I couldn't wrap my mind around being with this person anymore. I don't know if this has happened to you, but I was on this date and I was like, you know what? I got to get the hell out of here. I got to go. I made up some excuse. I can't remember what I told her. She was Oh, okay. I was like, I just got to go. Maybe you've been in other situations like that. You hit this point where you're like, there's nothing really going on here to make this bad, but I got to get the hell out of here. That was kind of the inspiration for the song. To cry and shame, it's just the way things got to be, but I got to go. Anyways, you can check that out. Like I said, anywhere you listen to music, you can find the song. Give it a listen. Tell me what you think. And another thing I wanted to get to, if you are trying to promote your own music, you've got something that you wrote, something that you put out there, you can send me that music. I would love to play it on the show and talk about it. So send that to me at prestontheband@gmail.com. You can email that. Send any artwork that you might have. I can throw that up on the screen as well. If you don't, I'll choose something flattering to your song. That's the idea, that in the future with this show, that there's got to be other people out there that are producing music on their own. I know there are. They're called independent artists. But they're hard to find. They're hard to find because they're so low in the algorithm. But technology being what it is, iPads, GarageBand, all that stuff. That's what we produce most of all of our music on. That's what we recorded on. It's GarageBand on a tablet. We're using the things at hand, um, and trying to get it out there, and for very little money. So everybody's cranking out music for thousands of dollars. We're cranking it out for hundreds of dollars. Very small amount of money. So if you got music, you send it in, send it to prestontheband@gmail.com, like I just said. Let's get right to the seven spirits of God. What the hell is that? Let's see here. Where can you find the seven spirits of God? Believe it or not, it's in the Bible. You might not think that, but it is. You can find it in Isaiah chapter 11 or Revelation chapter 1, verse 4. I was just reading through the Bible this past week, in the book of Revelation, as a matter of fact. And it starts off right there in chapter 1 talking about these seven spirits. And I'm like, what? What are the seven spirits? I've heard of them before. And you can Google them. I did a little bit of research on them. It's some characteristics. In Isaiah, you're going to see them describe some of the spirit that was on Jesus. So if you saw these seven spirits like wisdom and I don't know, you'd have to go check it out. But these seven characteristics almost that they use to describe Jesus. And then in the book of Revelation, maybe it could be a reference back to Isaiah chapter 11 so that the reader would know, oh, this is Jesus. This is the fulfillment of all these prophecies. I don't know all that because there's a whole bunch of other stuff in Revelation that says these are the seven spirits of God that go out into all the earth. They go out into all the earth. And the reason I bring that up is because we never hear about these seven spirits of God. We hear about the Spirit of God. We hear about the Trinity. And I'm not trying to argue theology about the Trinitarianism or anything like that, but I have heard people try to explain to me the Trinity backwards and forwards, and as if they know, as if they understand it completely. Oh, of course, God is three people all in one. There's three persons, but it's only one Godhead, and this one does this and this one does that, and it's like you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. And the reason I bring this up is also in Revelation, there's a lot of talk about the mystery. Later on in Revelation, there's a whole part that's like, yeah, everything happening right now is a mystery and nobody's going to know unless the Holy Spirit reveals it to them. You can find that in chapter 10. Go look at it. It's fun. But the mystery of things, and that's that word mystery, it just jumped out at me. It caught my attention. And I tell you why. Because as a musician, I played a lot of worship music throughout my time growing up in church, attending church, everything else. Music was just so much a part of my life. Worship music in church, to be more specific, just part of my life. And I did it so much. It's like I just got, for lack of a better term, I just got burnt out. I just couldn't do it anymore. And I think what it is that when you go to Disneyland, and there's that castle, I guess it's like Cinderella's castle or something like that, right there in the middle of the park. You're looking at it and you're like, wow, a castle. And then you go down like Main Street, downtown Disney, and you see all these little shops, and you're like, wow, this is so amazing. And that's when you're a kid, and it's magical, and there's mystery and everything. And you're like, wow, look at that. Then you grow up and you get a job at Disneyland. I didn't do this. I'm just saying you understood. You get a job at Disneyland, and you realize that the castle is just a janitorial closet. And all those shops, they're put there. They're all owned by franchises, and they're all run by people who are not magical and mysterious. They're just regular people like you and me. And all the mystery goes away. This is what I believe happened to me with playing worship music. I know what goes into making the music. I know what goes into invoking a sense of oh, the presence of God is here. I understand that. And so the mystery began to go away from me. And if you understand something and there's no mystery to it, how can you worship it? That's why we worship God, because there's a mystery there. We don't worship teachers and preachers and writers. We study teachers and preachers and writers. We study their works. We study their literature and this and that and the other. We might even take notes of how they live, try to emulate certain aspects. But we don't worship them. We worship God because he's a mystery to him. And people try to explain the Trinity as if like they know it backwards and forwards. And then I read this 7 spirits. How can God be the three-head, the Godhead 3 in 1, but also he's 7 spirits, and he sends those 7 spirits out into the world. And also those 7 spirits are on Jesus. I'm going to stop there because I think you got my point. When I come back to the mystery of God, it began to help me with my burnout on making worship music. And thank God for friends and family. I got some good friends. I got a good wife. And they encouraged me. Preston, how come you're not using your musical abilities? Your musical talents, you're just sitting there. You're not using them. And I was just burnt out. I'm like, I don't know. I just can't do it. I just don't have it in me to do it anymore. And then I discovered the mystery. I read that part just this last week. And I was like, you know what? Here's the mystery for my worship. I don't know what the end result is going to be. I don't know what the end result of incorporating more music into everything I do and utilizing my skills. I don't know what it's going to lead to, what it's going to accomplish. And I don't have to know. It's just my job to not let my talent die, or not die, but just be wasted. That's my job, not to understand everything I'm doing. So that being said, I'm going to play a little song for you. I'm going to incorporate more music into the show. You can check out those Bible verses. Like I said, for the 7 spirits of God, references right there, Isaiah chapter 11, Revelation chapter 1, verse 4. So if you don't know, do a little church service, a small group. It's not a formal church service. It's a fellowship. We get together, we sing songs, and we have some fellowship. We have a little discussion. Every Thursday night, 6:30. If you're in the Conroe area, email me if you're around, if you want to know any more information about that. But we do it at Candy Cane Park if you're around here. And I'm going to sing one of the songs that I just did this last Thursday, last night. Because of the words. I chose this song because of the words. So here it is. It's an old one. It's probably kind of out of style. Probably not, I think, because everybody and their brother has covered this song. It's Because He Lives, written in 1971 by some guy. I can't remember his name, but it's kind of an old school one. God sent his son. Oh, they call him Jesus. He came to love, heal, and forgive. Oh, he lived and died to buy my pardon. An empty grave is there to prove my Savior lives. Because he lives, I can face tomorrow. Oh, because he lives, all fear is gone. Because I know He holds the future, and life is worth the living just because He lives. Like I said, it's an old, kind of country sounding Baptist hymn. I think the Baptists picked that up. I might be wrong. I'm not sure. But you've probably heard it if you've grown up in church at all. I chose that one on Thursday because of the words. What are the words? I got them written over here. God sent His Son. They call Him Jesus. Notice that it didn't say God came to earth and He went by Jesus. That was just a little something that popped in my head earlier today. Talking about the Trinity and the mystery and the seven spirits of God. It's like, well, God came to earth. He put on a body and He came here. And He went by Jesus while He was here. And then He left and now He goes by God again. And then He still goes by Jesus too. All I'm saying is that there's a mystery to these things. Can't really explain it, but we can worship it. And the song goes on to talk about forgiveness. The reason He came was to teach us about forgiveness. I've met so many people, they don't know the first thing about forgiveness. And it's a shame. It's a shame. It's a problem. It's not a put down. It's just an observation. And I remember what my life was like when I didn't know a damn thing about forgiveness. I didn't understand it. I thought it was going and just saying, hey, you did me wrong and I'm sorry now. Or you're sorry now, but whatever. I forgive you. And it's just what it really looks like when you begin to understand forgiveness. It's more about you. And you realize, you know what? How can I hold something against somebody else with all the crap I've done in my life? Who am I to do that? And there's only one sin, and that sin is playing God, becoming the judge of your own life and the judge of other people. That's the only thing we're going to be judged for, is our capacity to forgive others of what they've done. Think about that. The Lamb of God takes away the sins of the earth. And they're all gone. And if you don't forgive, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. It's that simple. And it's a shame that so many people, they go their whole lives not understanding forgiveness, but it can be understood. And that's why I chose the song, because that one line right there, the reason Jesus came, teach us about forgiveness. And through that forgiveness, healing is going to come through that. And it says also, He died to buy my pardon. So He died to take away the sin. Sin's not an issue anymore. You're going to be judged by your capacity to forgive. Just a little something to think about. Moving on, if I can check my notes here and see where we're at, because I got to stay on topic. If I don't have the notes, I'll be all over the place. When I was a missionary down in Nicaragua, I noticed something. It took me a while to see this, but when I first got there, all I saw was a third world country, poverty, impoverished people living in shanty homes. They live different than us. Then I began the culture shock, I guess I could say, the culture shock began to wear off. And I stopped seeing it like that. I started seeing it kind of for what it was. There's nothing wrong with the way these people are living. So what? They got a dirt floor. They take care of it. They have pride in what they have. That's not the issue. And I started to think there's got to be something more going on here. And I found out. And I've got the answer for you. I'm just joking. But the culture, what we call third world culture or developing world culture, all that other stuff, it's an impoverished mindset. It's not in the aesthetics of the way they live. Trust me. It's in the hearts and the minds of the people. There's something impoverished there. And this is what I saw. I didn't see a lot of men who were leaders. And I nicknamed it the mommy culture, because everybody and their brother loved mama. Everybody and their brother still lived with mom. The families would stay living together generation after generation. There'd be 2 or 3 generations in one home. Not going to put that down. I'm just saying there's something to be said when you're a young person and you go out into the world to pay your own way, to pay your own rent. and you got to move forward. You're not under the protection of mommy anymore. And I saw it through everything in the businesses. A lot of females, a lot of women running the businesses. I saw it in the churches. Not a lot of men pastors. Almost 50-50 female pastors and male pastors. So some insight onto what might have caused that. Nicaragua, in the history of it, they've had quite a few civil wars. In contrast, America's only had one civil war, and that was over 100 years ago. That's the only war in the last 150 years been fought on American soil. We've had a lot of peace in this country, lots of peace. But Nicaragua, multiple civil wars, which means multiple young men dying in these battles, in these wars. Then after these wars change hands, you got a dictator comes up, which leads to another war, and then another dictator, and so on and so forth. The movers, the shakers, the people with the money, the know-how, the brains, what do? They have the resources to pack their crap and get out of the country. And that's exactly what they did. A lot of them moved to Miami. Tons of Nicaraguans in Miami. They love it there. But my point being, it left a gap. And who filled that gap? The moms. And rightly so. You can't blame them for it. But it's like once they got there in the positions of leadership, they didn't want to relinquish that power to anybody else. I went head to head with some of these pastors, these female pastors, because they just weren't used to dealing with the strong male figure. And I come along and they're like being all nice and all this stuff. And if you know me, I'm not always nice. I'm not always purposely mean, but I'm kind of blunt. I've been told I'm kind of blunt. And I didn't like to play games with these female pastors or anybody. I didn't even like playing games with the churches back in America. I don't like doing that stuff. So it caused some problems. But going on down there, you got a deficit of men. I moved back to the States and I saw the same thing for the first time in my life. I recognized what was going on in my own country. We're seeing it right now. We've been seeing it in the Black community. Once they brought in welfare in the 1960s, the destruction of the nuclear family. You could get more money if you weren't married. So these people, they wouldn't marry. And then when things get bad in the relationship, the husband just takes off, or the father in this case. You got so many kids not knowing who their dads are. And it's not a Black thing. We just saw it in the Black community. And it has spread. It has spread to the white community. And the proof? Oh, I've got proof. The proof is my generation. My generation. When I was growing up, I was a minority. Not because of my skin color, but because my parents were still married to the same person. My parents have been married over 50 years, almost 60 years now. I can't believe it. But I was a minority in that because I was raised by my biological parents. It's the craziest thing to be going to school with all these kids who are just accustomed to having one parent, not a dad around. And the default in this country is that the kids go with the moms. I think, on a side note, I think the dads should get the kids for two reasons. One, those are his kids. We'll talk about that that's a whole nother ball of wax. But number one, those kids should go with the dad because they don't need the mom to be babying them anymore if they're not babies. Okay? And two, I think a whole lot of men that are planning on divorcing their wife, if the court comes along and says, oh, you got to take these kids, the dads would be like, well, wait a second. Maybe we can work some things out. Maybe she's not as much a bitch as I thought she was. Pardon my French. Don't be offended. And if you are, I don't care, whatever. But listen, you can't just raise children with a check, with a, what do they call that? What's it called? Child support. You can't think that writing a check every month and sending it to your kids is you doing your part. So here's a solution to the mommy culture. Men, you got to stand up because without men around, it turns into the third world, or what we interpret as the third world. And again, it's not the aesthetics of the third world. It's not the dogs running around and the dirt floors and the tin roofs. It's the mindset of the people. They're so impoverished. They don't know what to do. If you went and handed them $1,000, they wouldn't know what to do with it. And the young men, they don't get a chance to be men. They're held down. They're suppressed by their wives. They don't know how to stand up to them. I'm going to stop going off on the Nicaraguans. But the solution, because we need it in America, and to America, the mommy culture, it's here. And it's only going to continue to destroy us. if we don't do something about it. And the remedy is this: men, you got to be the example that you're created to be. Men were created in the image of God first. Before Eve was ever even thought of, there was Adam, created in the image of God to be the image of God, to be the hands and feet of God, to do his will in his creation. Think about that. Every man that there is in the image of God. He might be a really pitiful, sad excuse of the image of God, which is why so many people end up doubting the existence of God. But nevertheless, that's his role. And we got to step into it. And how do you do that? You got to go forgive. You got to learn about forgiveness. You got to stop judging people. And once you forgive, you'll overcome fear, and you will learn how to endure all things, including a bad marriage. If you're thinking about getting a divorce, you're thinking about cutting and running, if you learn how to endure, you'll make it out. If you can't endure a bad marriage, there's no way you're going to stand up when the going gets tough and take a stand for your beliefs in Christianity. There's just no way about it. That being said, speaking of standing up, doing what's right, loving what's right, let's get to it's not going to lick itself. It's not going to lick itself. In case you didn't know, it's Pride Month. And there was a little get together in Dallas at a some kind of bar, some gay bar or something there. And so they had a little drag queen show. And it was called Drag Your Family or Drag Your Kids to Pride. They brought kids to this gay bar, to a bar. Doesn't matter what kind it is. They brought kids to a bar to watch a little song and dance show by some strippers. They weren't strippers. They're drag queens. Just a little song and dance. That's what they're arguing. Oh, it's nothing. It's just to show the kids a fun time, and maybe you got kids that enjoy song and dance and costumes. They might want to see this. I got proof that it's more than that. It's more than that, people. It's not just a show. If your kids are into song and dance, take them to the theater. Take them go see a musical. Rent one. Here it is right there. This is the bar that the event was held in. And there's a neon sign in the background. It's not going to lick itself. What is the purpose of that? What is the purpose of that? You know you got kids coming to the bar. Why don't you just go, hey, turn off the neon sign. We're going to have kids here today. Nope. They turn that sign on purpose. And this is the problem I have with this. They're targeting young children, and they're trying to control young children's minds. There it is. I said it. I just put it out there. It's a group of people trying to control the next generation. They're trying to destroy the nuclear family. That's a man and a woman married, raising their biological children. That is God's ideal plan. Now, I know there's mixed families. I get it. God can use that too. But the nuclear family is a husband and a wife raising children. And the ideal nuclear family, just so I can preface this, I don't want to get in trouble. The ideal nuclear family, husband, wife, raising their biological children. Obviously, there's extenuating circumstances, and sometimes you got some mixed family in there. Let's keep moving. The reason I know that they're coming after the kids is this right here. They want to manipulate their minds. Let's say that your kid isn't that great at school. All right, they kind of suck at school. There's going to be some telltale signs that they're not that good at school, aren't there? Here's the telltale sign, a report card. Your kid brings home a bad report card, and it's got a couple of bad grades on there. Well, since that's a telltale sign that they're not doing good at school, what do? Hey, you idiot! You suck! Look at this! I got proof that you're a moron! No, you would never do that. You would never do that. You'd be insane if that was your parenting technique. But that's what these people are doing with these young children. The kid does a behavior, and instead of trying to figure out why they're doing that behavior, they rush to conclusions and say, aha, see? Means the kid's gay, or it means the kid wants to be a drag queen. Just like you wouldn't grab a report card and say, oh, your bad grades mean you're an idiot. No, you'd take time. You'd figure out why you have the bad grades. What's going on? Give you a little example. I'll make this quick because we're running out of time. We're already over time. I'm trying to make this quick. When I was young, I was a young kid. I liked those detective noir films from back in the day, private eye films. So I went in a hall closet at my house, at my parents' house, and I found a jacket in there. I don't know. It was long and it came down almost to my feet. So I put it on. It looked like a trench coat. I'm like, all right. I also found a straw summer hat up in there. So I got the summer hat and I bent it like a fedora hat and I put it on. I felt like a private detective from back in the day. It was great. I started playing like I was a private detective. I had a little cap gun and everything. I went outside. I'm playing in the front yard. This kid from down the street, I can't remember his name, but he comes riding by on his bicycle and he's like, dude, why are you dressed like a woman? And I was like, I'm not dressed like a woman. I'm a detective. He's like, you're not a detective, man. It's your mom's clothes. And I looked at myself and I was like, yeah, I guess that's true. I guess that's true. So I went inside and I played detective inside. Now just think if my parents would have seen me, if my mother would have seen me wearing her clothing and her hat and been like, oh, my child, he's a transvestite or he's a drag queen. We better take him and get him involved in drag queen stuff and start pushing that crap and those thoughts into his mind. Just like with the report card, you tell somebody they're an idiot enough, they're going to start to believe it. You tell a kid, oh, you like singing and dancing? It's because you're gay. If you tell them that enough, they're going to believe you. It's that simple. You don't do that. What should we do instead? We should learn to lead our children by discovering what their intentions are. Instead of, what did I write down here? Oh, instead of imposing on our children and controlling them by only judging their behavior. Like I said before, God's going to judge us on our capacity to forgive. He's not worried about our behavior because once you get the heart in the right place, the behavior takes care of itself. And plus, Jesus came and paid for all the sins. It's over as far as that's concerned. Sins are just like a bad report card. Just mean the things that people consider sin. It just means you need to pay some closer attention to problems you might be having. Work some things out. And you need a good teacher to encourage you, not put you down because they're judging your behavior. I want to talk again about the song that I played at the beginning, which was Crying Shame. Let me take a little drink of water. Crying Shame, original song that the band Preston put out, released that under the name Eric Sound Studio. But I'm going to play it for you because, again, trying to incorporate more music into what it is I'm doing. I'm going to lose the capo. I'm going to play this for you. And I told you it's a one chord song. So it can be nice and challenging to make an entire song that goes someplace that doesn't just sit there and be boring out of just one chord. And so the chord is C. It's a C chord. Now I add this little pinky back here and it makes the chord a C4. Somebody might argue with me and say, aha, I knew you had two chords in that song. I guess technically a C is a C and a C4 is a C4, but it's pretty much the same song. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and just say it's a one chord song. This is how you make a C4, just real quick, in case you didn't know this, a little tutorial for you. The major scale is very important in music. You might have learned it, might have heard it before. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And so I'm going to change those do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do's. I'm going to change those to numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you'll notice that 1 and 8 is the same note. It's just the octave. Hence the term octave, in case you didn't know that. So that's the octave right there. So if I count 1, 2, 3, 4, I stay on that note right there. Listen for that note. 4, 4, 4. Listen to that. See? Hear that? When I add that, that's how I know I've got a C4. There you go. It's that simple. You're building chords now. You're changing things up. You're making a song that just had one boring chord into a two chord song, but it's technically a one chord song, as I said. So I'm just going to play it for you.
Yeah. About the middle of the night, I knew I had to go. Your cold black eyes, well, they made me feel so alone. When what I wanted to say, I left deep inside. You think you know me because you saw me cry. You think you know me. It's just a crying shame, that's all. Ooh, it's just a crying shame. Ooh, a crying shame. Yeah, just a crying shame. Yeah, the way it had to be. Ooh, just the way it had to be. And there you go. By using some dynamics, controlling the volume, getting loud, getting soft, you make a nice, boring one-chord song into something that might just catch your attention. Oh, and you put some nice lyrics to it, and you wonder, oh, what happened? Why did he know that he had to just leave? It's because she had a small chin, if you saw the early part of the video. Again, guys, that is all I have. You can catch me next Friday, 6 p.m. for Live with Preston. Have a great rest of your week.